I think it can be really intimidating to think about having to be in a space with somebody over and over and over, and that can feel a little daunting.
Today we're here with Kevin and Karina Murphy of Marriage Elements. Welcome, Kevin and Karina.
Thanks for having us, Josh.
So outside of a pandemic, what do you guys specialize in? What do you do?
We're, well, we have a counseling practice, and we both see individuals as well as couples, and our focus is on relationship health. And there's a lot of ways and varieties that shows up, but primarily we're helping individuals and couples have better relationships. We do that through a series of things, whether that's individual counseling with those couples or individuals, or we do workshops in addition for community education. We're really passionate about making sure that people have good resources.
Okay, so we are in a pandemic. People are locked inside of their homes with nowhere to go, and people who are married or in relationships are stuck with each other. What implications does that have for relationships and conflict in relationships and dealing with those? And I'm sure you've seen a lot already, but yeah, what are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. It is very different for most people to be able to be stuck with each other as much as we are right now. And how do we deal with that? So there's, some pros and cons to that. Some of the challenges that we've heard from people is just being around each other a lot more and not sure how to do that. People have differences as far as their needs for time together or time apart, and how do you navigate that? Also, there's differences in how each of you might deal with the stress of all this. And of course, there's lots of different various stressors, not just with the virus itself and health issues, but financial stress, not knowing whether or not to go back to work, or maybe some people are still working and one is working, one's not working. There's, just the community not being able to, we're used to going out at restaurants, we're used to going out to a bar together. We're not able to do that. And so now what do we do?
Yeah, absolutely. Plus adding in the extra pieces of now, if you have children at home, you're being asked to play dual roles, right? So you're kind of playing partner, maybe working, and also teacher. And by the way, parent. So there's a lot of moving pieces right now for people in pandemic, and we are also stuck with the monotony of being together all day, every day. So a lot of people are trying to find workarounds for that, and they're getting really creative, and I'm really proud of the work that they are doing, and we've been coming alongside and helping them tweak some things and get that into alignment. So we're going to share some of those things with you today.
Yeah, I imagine it just, all of these things are typically stressful in a relationship. You have finances and the distance component, time together, time apart, things that everyone struggles with normally in a relationship, compounded by the fact that all of this stuff is going on and it's more intense and there's more unknowns. And so I can just see how all of that just sort of builds on each other until you get to this point where, there's kind of danger zone to deal with this. So what are some of those strategies for being proactive and working together and trying to find a way forward in all this and to make it work?
Yeah, well, I think one of those ways too is just recognize first off what you can do. In times of uncertainty, it's natural to either try to hold on too tightly to control those things that maybe you can't control or don't have the power in, or have the other effect of what can I do and feel pretty helpless or hopeless about things. So it's helpful to kind of reevaluate what can I do. And I always like to think about kind of some spheres of influence. So if you think about a small circle and a little bit larger circle, and there on out, those concentric circles, the farther you go out, the less control or say you're going to have, and that less impact you have. And so, but a lot of times that's what we're reading into, because we look at the national news, we see what's going on in the world, all those different things that we have little to no impact on. But we have a lot of impact what's going on in our household or with what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And then also what we can do within our neighborhood or within our larger community. So I think that's kind of just a mindset or a strategy to remind yourself, what can I control? And then also recognize that it's going to be different for you and your partner, and how you actually cope with things.
Yeah, and I think there's a piece about being honest about what you need, right? I think so much in where we're at as a culture in general before the pandemic was kind of either getting really good at saying what we need or being really not adept at saying what we need. So this is a great time to start working, an opportunity to start working with that skill set, and maybe writing down some of the things that you know you're needing for yourself. So if you know yourself to need more personal time, write that down, right? You may think, well, my partner already knows that about me. That's pre-pandemic you, right? In pre-pandemic you spent your time maybe alone going to yoga. So they may be thinking, oh, they're going and they're being with other people. So they may not have an accurate perception of what alone time means for you. So I think getting really clear about what is it that I need from a coping skills perspective, and then providing that information to my partner so that they can help me be successful and I can help them be successful with the information they provide as well. Having those really open communication patterns can be illuminating, because oftentimes we are trying to read each other's minds, and that is not helpful.
Yeah. There's a saying about assumptions, and I think the less you can do, less of those assumptions you can have, and the more you can do to reduce those assumptions, really helpful, like what you're describing there. And so be able to have those conversations, even if it sounds like, oh, my partner knows that. No, they know that about me. Don't make those assumptions right now.
I think the other piece into this is going to be that we are coming in with different bandwidths right now, right? The bandwidth that we used to have for tolerating our partner's quirks was much bigger before the pandemic and before we were staring at each other over the dinner table day after day. And so acknowledging that, where is my bandwidth right now? Am I running on a 20% bandwidth, or do I have like 80% to give today because I took care of myself really well yesterday? That gives you the room to play with things and tag out. We do a lot of tagging out when it comes to parenting. When our bandwidth gets a little thin, we say, okay, tag out, your turn. And that's a good way to take care of yourself and your family.
Yeah, and also the other part about that is it's okay, even though you're physically together, to be, find some space to check out. Earbuds are your friend. It's okay to check out. And I like what you say, though, that physical distance doesn't mean emotional distance. Right. And that, just because, we might be, okay, I'm going to go into another room right now for a few hours to focus on something else, doesn't mean that there's something wrong in the relationship or that something needs to be addressed. Again, we have different needs around time together, time apart, different needs of just alone time or time to reflect or time to, maybe connect with others and do that on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Earbuds are your friend.
Are there, maybe it kind of transitions into our next section, but is there some resources that people can take advantage of? I know that people might have a little more time on their hands now, and are there books or things that you'd recommend, people to pick up and start kind of looking into if they're wanting to work on their relationship or just trying to survive, the next couple of weeks, in this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one book I like is, it's called 8 Dates, 8 like the number, and it's by John and Julie Gottman, and it just leads through 8 dates, but it's really conversation starters. And you might think, in 8 dates, that's a bad book right now because we can't go out to the restaurants and have a date. But actually, this is a time where you can maybe get creative with what those would look like. And it covers 8 different conversations to have, and a lot of different domains of relationship. And so it's a good opportunity when we have a little more time to have a little more deeper conversation than maybe the normal day-to-day life, because you could look at each other, what did you do today? Well, I don't know, you saw me all day, so you know what I did. Right. Those natural conversations are not necessarily there right now. And so this might be an opportunity to have some different types of conversations.
Absolutely. I can think of a number of books that I enjoy and might recommend. We can put a list of that library on our website, which we'll make available to everybody. But I think one of the go-to tools that I'm using a lot with my couples are reminding them, right? Because this is one of those first tools that we teach, is how to have a stress-reducing conversation. And that that skill set's really important, especially right now when we feel so out of control, because there's nothing really that we can do to really change things overnight. That stress reducing conversations is a tool that gives you permission to take off your Mrs. Fix-It hat or Mr. Fix-It hat. We both like our Fix-It hats at this house. But that it sidesteps out of doing that, so we're actually having more emotional connection. The more that we try to solve for our partner, the more disconnected we get, the further away we get from each other's emotional core. And so being able to validate instead of fix. And so we'll make a copy of that tool available for you as well. It's a tool that was developed by the Gottman Institute, and thousands of couples have gone through that research process, and this has been a really helpful tool for them as well. So we'll make that available.
Yeah, so I think just talking about stress in general can be really helpful, not only reducing the stress, but like you were saying, it's an opportunity to have that connection and to foster that, because, to be able to be heard and to be understood, it is great for intimacy and connection.
So with intimacy and connection, Karina, I guess this question is for you. Do you think there's going to be a flood of Corona babies in 9 months?
Sure. Yeah. That is a great question. And it's one that we kind of joke about in the practice as well. I think that there is probably going to be more opportunity for connection in that way, and intimacy. Whether that ends up being a flood of new babies like the Columbus Day storm babies, we'll see. I think one of the things that comes to mind for couples who are talking about using this time as an opportunity to build on intimacy is to kind of keep in mind that the emotional intimacy comes first, right? And that two, when we are having these intimate moments, that the goal is not to kind of spice up our sex life in the quarantine stage, right? But really just to be playful with one another and explore places, because we have more time to talk about what feels intimate to you, what feels close to you, what is good connection to you, what is good sex to you, and be able to talk about that and have more time to explore that as a couple, versus trying to be Shakespeare right now and create something amazing. Just revisit what you already know and improve upon it.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely we'll share the link to your website here and for other resources for people to check out. But is there anything you want to leave viewers with today?
Just a reminder that physical distancing is not emotional distancing. I think it can be really intimidating to think about having to be in a space with somebody over and over and over, and that can feel a little daunting. And to give yourself permission to tap out when you need it, to give your partner permission to tap out when they need it, to not take it personally, because we are all under extreme stress right now, and understand that bandwidth that may feel a little smaller right now, it will grow back. That we will recover things that go missing in this season of life, and that this is just for now. This is what it is. It doesn't have to be forever. And so remembering that it's okay to dream and plan together, and to revisit places that you've felt passionate about together, and the emotional connection piece being the most important.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today and to do this interview. And I know that you guys are helping out a lot of people in the community right now, kind of working through these issues and this challenging time. So thank you for everything you're doing. And thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.